Assalamu alaikum. This is Maseo Nafisa Cabrera Esteves, and I am one of the co-founders of the Muslim Writers Salon. Today, we are having an interview with one of our members and a multiple book author, Claudia Azizah Seise. And she lives in Germany. And I first met her when she joined the Muslim Writers Salon. And I remember the mixer that we had that we first met. And I really have loved to see her writing and her devotion to it, to Allah, and her devotion to Allah and showing it through her writing. And we wanted to invite her to our series of How I Write. And this is a series that the Muslim Writers Salon has um, for where we interview writers, Muslim writers, on their writing life, their process, their books, and learn from them, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Claudia.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for your invitation and the possibility to join the program today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for doing it, especially during Ramadan. I especially appreciate that. So I am going to go into your bio right now, which I loved reading, Claudia Azizah. And while I'm doing that, tell us a little bit of anything that you're reading right now.
Reading, yeah. So actually, I'm reading a book that has um, is supposed to help me understand a bit more about marketing.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not getting far because actually these are things we know, but we don't put them into practice. So, I mean, like making us like being known to people, so it's nice, but I think it would be easier to have somebody do these things for you because if you're a writer, you write and you don't like actually talk about yourself because that's what you do through writing. You put yourself into the writing. So this is one book, and then of course, I mean, in Ramadan, I'm reading the Quran, and with my kids, we read the life story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm actually just listening. My son is reading it, so this is nice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And when you are these books available in German?
Yeah, I mean, the life story of the Prophet is
Yes.
available in German. This is like the very traditional classical
Hmm.
one, and we have translations for these, but I think we only have like three translations of life stories of the Prophet. One is Martin Links, one is von Amina Adil,
Hmm.
and the third is yeah, the Ishaq uh, uh, biography. Yeah.
I love the Martin Lings one.
Yeah,
I
it's
it's
nice. I like that as well.
it really is. I read it I think in 2000, yeah, in 2008, 2009, and I still have the images from that
Yeah.
book. You know, I still the way that he wrote it was just really beautiful.
Yeah,
Um
he has a nice way of writing it. I like the Amina Adil one as well because
mhm,
she's making use of Osmani resources,
mhm.
which others don't have. So it makes it like very special in this way. It's very Sufi style
Yeah. It's
biography.
Amina Wadud?
No, Amina Adil. So this was
Adir. Okay.
the wife of the late Sheikh Nazim from
Okay.
Cyprus. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Mashallah. Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about Claudia Azizah. She was born in 1983 in Germany, and she converted to Islam in 2008. And her aim is to study Islam and seek knowledge on becoming closer to God. And one of her passions is supporting new and old converts to Islam. And I love that you've done this in various ways because like you have a PhD in Southeast Asian Studies from Humboldt University in Germany, and then you've done academic writing on Islam in Indonesia, and you have contributed to the German Islamic newspaper. You have poetry published in several collections, and she writes and publishes children's books as well. And she served as assistant professor of the International Islamic University in Malaysia from September 2020 to December 2023. She was a postdoc fellow at the Berlin Institute of Islamic Theology, and she's the author of Finding God, published by Daybreak Press. So, alhamdulillah, it's so amazing, like the trajectory. I'm very curious about it all. And you're a mom.
Yeah, I'm a mom to three. Alhamdulillah.
Yes. I think it's amazing. Claudia, um, tell me like how your journey began with being a writer.
Yeah, actually, like when you read the bio now, I was like just being reminded that I always tried to get out of academia, and I was always pushed back in.
Yeah.
So this is like a love-hate story kind of.
Hmm.
Yeah, but since I can remember, I'm like when people ask me, "What do you want to be?" When I was a child, I was like, "I want to become a journalist."
Mm.
I don't know. So I have not become a journalist, but somehow I mean journalist is writing, right? So I wrote I wrote poems very early, like from when I was still young, I think 10 years old, I wrote my first poem. And I remember like I had like a first poem published, I think when I was 13 in like a local um, like newspaper, like for like on the youth page something. So and yeah, ever since like I always like I felt like writing is like my passion is and profession. So that's what I do. I mean, whatever my work is, I write. So in academia, I write. When I used to work as an editor for Islamic Relief. That's what I write. I
Mhm.
wrote there, and now, yeah, I wrote poetry, or I'm writing poetry, and I'm writing stories and children's books because we don't have in Germany, we don't have enough children books for Muslim children. So this is really like a big, big gap. I mean, we're trying to fill this now with a few colleagues since like 3 or 4 years, but it's still like nothing compared to the US or the UK, nothing.
Mhm.
So we have like good children's books, right? I mean, like properly illustrated
Mhm.
and like touching the children's heart. We have very few. I mean, I made a list now for a project, and it was not even 30 books.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
this is very
Mhm.
little. I mean, and I mean for the big country, and we have quite a big minority of Muslims living in
Mhm.
Germany. So
Mhm.
that's why, and having children on my own, I also started writing children's books, and I really enjoy writing children's books. Like the stories, I like to come up
Mhm.
with like fun stories, everyday stories, like going to the zoo, but from a Muslim perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that. Yeah.
That's what children need, like they just need that simplicity, of like
Mm,
everyday life, but from a Muslim perspective and written by a Muslim. Because
yeah.
like I know, like let's say like I've seen like cartoons that they're introducing the concept of Eid, they're introducing that, but they introduce it in a way that it's not for Muslims.
Mm,
So there's like a difference. Like you can write a book, like a children's book, that like a Muslim child will feel represented, and then a child that's not Muslim will learn about it or just see the child and be like, oh, the child is very similar to me. So
Mm.
they go to the zoo.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so I
exactly.
love that. I love that you do that. And so so do you publish these books, or
Yeah,
is
yeah.
there a
As
publisher
yeah,
in Germany?
we published several children's books. We have a big problem actually because we don't have enough publishers. So
Okay.
we have only like four small Muslim publishers that publish children books.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big issue. So we have now a lot of output, like compared to before,
Yes.
but now we have to work how to get them published because I mean the publishing houses are quite small and publishing cost is quite high, especially like when you work with good illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that needs quite an investment. So we're now working, for example, for a new book on Islam, the five pillars of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
uh, we try to get a funding from like various people. So we have to be creative there. But I
Yeah.
have two other books where we do poetry, Muslim poetry for children.
Mm-hmm.
So because Germany being a poet country, right? I mean, we have like big poets in the past. So poetry is quite important and it should be also for our Muslim children. So they learn basically, they learn Islam through poetry. That's the idea. So we have published two books like that. One for preschool, and one for primary school.
Mashallah. That's really
Yeah.
nice. And then do those go to schools, like do Islamic schools or centers use them?
We try that. Yeah. I mean, we have to make them aware of it. I mean, if they
Yes.
don't know about it, yeah,
The marketing. That's why you're
yeah,
reading a book on
exactly.
marketing. Yeah, it's just it's nowadays too. It's just like because they're self-publishing
Mm,
and smaller, more independent publishing, and there's not enough money in it, like invested in it. There's money around, but not invested in that. Then it's up to the writer to and
mm,
the illustrator to be doing that marketing. So,
yes.
yeah, it's a lot of hats you have to wear when you're a writer. It's more than just writing now. So you've published in different genres, right? So you published in poetry collections, and then you have like the children's poetry books, and then you have children's books, and then um, Finding God, which
Yeah, finding
what
God.
is that? What genre would that be considered?
I think it's stories. I
Stories? Yeah.
mean, yeah, I would say it's stories, spirituality, also life, what is it? Life coaching, life self-help.
Hmm.
So it's a two-part book. So the first part is about convert stories,
Hmm.
but not just any convert stories. So my focus was actually on um, because I'm a teacher, I mean, I love to teach. So, what can we teach through the convert stories? So,
Yeah.
I selected convert stories that actually teach about our values, our Muslim values.
Hmm.
So, for example, like hospitality. So, there is a story like one person actually finds Islam because of Muslims' hospitality.
Mm.
So things like that. Or, for example, one lady from Southeast Asia found Islam because she was given a scholarship to study. Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean these things. So the importance of seeking knowledge, the importance of supporting seekers of knowledge. So all these like stories have different values in them. So that was important for me, and also that these stories are not just like European stories or American stories, but they are like also from Asia. They are from different European countries. They are from the United States, but they're also from South America. So
Hmm.
there are different people's voices. Being written about. I found that important because the focus is mostly on white European converts to Islam. So I'm giving a voice to many different people. And the second part of the book is basically self-help or spiritual advice for converts or non-converts. So, for example, like many converts are faced with the question, okay, what's your Muslim name? So
Mm-hmm.
do you need a
Mm-hmm.
Muslim name or
Mm-hmm.
not?
Mm-hmm.
So what about, another issue is hijab. So do you wear hijab or not?
Mm-hmm.
Another issue is like celebrating Christmas with your family.
Yeah.
Can you celebrate? Can you not celebrate? So these issues are discussed. Also, like I wrote like a sample letter to my non-Muslim parents. So what can you, for example, if you cannot talk, sometimes these issues are so difficult that families don't talk anymore. Family members stop talking to each other when one person converts. So, how can you write a letter to your
Mm-hmm.
parents, for example? Yeah, so two parts that complement each other, inshallah.
Inshallah. I love that. Um, I love that you have that letter in there, because it's definitely something that um, maybe people struggle with and don't know how to address it to their parents. So just even just reading the letter, even if they don't write it themselves, but reading the letter, then they could, formulate their own. So having that is really nice. And the fact that you have stories from converts from different parts of the world. I really enjoyed that because I read it,
Alhamdulillah.
and I was just like, oh, finally, because it's mostly, stories from the US or North America and Europe, and that's it. And just to know like the people's lives too, like before that, like just in the moment of convert, like that's very I found it to be to I wanted to get to the next story. I wanted to know what was next. Each one I was just like, oh, this is surprising. I love how this happened for them. Let me see what's going to happen next. And how did you find these stories?
So many of the people I met personally,
Hmm.
some I researched. Yeah, so these are two different. So either I met them or I heard about them from other people or I researched them. Yes.
And did you start this project before going to Daybreak Press?
Yes, it was basically a finished project.
Okay.
So it was during my time in Malaysia at the
Hmm.
International Islamic University. I was asked to write my story.
Hmm.
And I did this, and then I was like, oh, that's nice. So I continued and wrote more and more stories.
Hmm.
And then I had actually collected, I think, over 50 or 60 stories. So
Hmm.
this is already like now a selection. And and then I organized a program at the university where Anse Tamara Gray came to the
Hmm.
university, and I met her there personally. And we exchanged numbers, and I asked her later, and she was like, "Yeah, I mean, just write a proposal and send it to us, and we will get back to you." And this was quite a long time ago. So this was I think in 2020,
Hmm.
um, and then, I mean, Anse Najiha, she wrote. I mean, the editor, the main editor, she wrote back, and she was like, "We want to publish it, but at the moment, it's quite we have quite a lot of work to do, and so you just have to be patient." So I was patient. I was patient, and it was good because in the end, a beautiful product came out, I think. So it was good to be patient. And
Hmm.
also, the editor, she worked very closely with me. I mean, she knows, I mean, what needed editing and what we what had to be changed. So
Hmm.
it was very good, yeah.
That is great. And usually the process for publishing a book. So it took, so it was published last year, right? In
Yeah,
2024?
so it took 4 years. Yeah.
4 years, yeah. Yeah. So I think like in most like big publishers, it may take like 2 years.
Hmm.
It's double. So and it was like COVID time, so it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and they changed. I mean, Daybreak Press, they changed a lot, internally now they made a whole new setup and they employed much more people and everything. So I think
Good.
now it will be much quicker and the process
Hmm.
will be smoother. But
Hmm.
at this time, the editor was basically by herself, so it was really too much work for her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember that, and you were telling me like she just has a lot of work. She has a lot
Yeah.
on her, and yeah, and that like alhamdulillah, you had that personal touch with working with a publisher, because that's one of the things that we're seeing less and less in the publishing industry is having an editor that works so closely with a writer. So alhamdulillah that you had that, and they're able to provide it, and that they're growing. So
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
alhamdulillah, that's really really great. And so Yasmin had a question. Let's see, Yasmin. Let me open the chat. Um, Okay, so Yasmin wants to know, how did the process of choosing the stories look like? And do you have plans for the other stories, the ones that weren't selected for Finding God?
Yeah, I mean, so the way we chose the stories is basically when there was like one value that was like had two stories to it, we just chose one story. So, for example, we had like two stories for hospitality, we just chose one story from it. So not to make it redundant. And and then, I mean, some stories just didn't have this wow effect, It's like, I mean, they just didn't surprise you enough, or they were, just like the too common, too usual, maybe. So I was okay with selecting stories and omitting some of the stories. And I think for the other stories that did not make it into the book, I mean, sorry, stories, you didn't make it. So no, they will not be collected in a different book because, I mean, maybe they were just not good enough. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we just have to be honest with ourselves sometimes. What we write is not everything is like 100%.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. And yeah, no, definitely. So so with these stories, were they stories that were submitted to you, or you wrote them after
No, I
interview?
wrote them. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I wrote them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's true. It's just like, with our own work, we have to know not everything has a home out in the world. It could have a home, like in your book or on the computer. It's good to get it out, but it's not everything has to go out into the world.
Yeah,
And
true.
and it's also part of the process of writing. You needed to write that story. You needed to write it, and you wrote it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so how is it that so like how is it that you navigate writing in different genres? And like how do you do that?
I don't know. I mean, I just do it. It's very difficult to explain. I mean, for example, like when I write for academia,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know how to do that because I also read a lot of
Mm-hmm.
academia, and
Mm-hmm.
actually, I cannot write in academia in German. I cannot do that because I always wrote in English. So
Yes.
it would be very difficult for me to write an academic article in
Mm-hmm.
German. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot do it.
Mm-hmm.
And people make fun of me because, I mean, even though German is my mother tongue, is like I make quite a lot of mistakes writing German. So,
Mm-hmm.
because I mix it too much. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I because I'm thinking in English and also Indonesian and then German. So that's why, like, for example, the comma rules, they're quite
Hmm.
different in English and German. So I usually apply the English comma rules to German,
Hmm.
which is not very good. So I need editor for German as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, but I mean, for example, like poetry is just really it comes from the heart. So
Hmm.
it comes from the heart or through the heart, and
Yeah.
it's like something like I don't know, inspirational.
Hmm.
While academia is really like you usually use your brain, your mental capacity. Although I made an effort, like in my last project, to combine the two
Hmm.
because I think or I felt that academia is too dry and
Hmm.
too um, intellectual. So I think we have to open up and allow some poetry in our academic work where it is possible.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I even like when I write academic articles, it's more like a narrative. I like mm, writing in a narrative style, even in academia. And yeah, and children's books is like it's telling stories
Hmm.
because I grew up with hearing stories. My parents and my father he told us stories. My mother read stories. So yeah, it's life is a story, and I think nowadays we have not enough stories. I think
Hmm.
we need more fantasy, more imagination, more story time
Hmm.
for ourselves and for our children. I mean, for everybody to
Hmm.
see this world like the what is it? The world is yeah, it's a story. I mean, it's an imagination. It has more to it than what we see, and I think we can express that in storytelling.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So, do your kids do they do any writing or do they like art or do they enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, having a mother as a writing mother and a father who's an artist, so
Hmm.
they have to kind of, I mean, they don't have a choice, I guess. So yes, they do. I mean, they do write, and I encourage them to do that. And
Hmm.
actually, in one of the children's books for poetry, I included two of their poems in the book to actually illustrate to the
Uh-huh.
parents
Uh-huh.
that kids can write poetry and kids
Mm.
can write, and we should
Mhm.
encourage them to do that. And yes, they love art and they love painting, everything. Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's
don't
wonderful.
like math.
No.
Yeah,
That's wonderful. Yeah, my daughter, she writes, and one of the things that I enjoy is like when she has a conversation with me about, the characters and what she's working on, and it's just so nice.
beautiful. Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And so, what are you working on next
So
or
I
now?
have a oh now I have a few children books
Hmm.
that still look for a permanent home.
Yes.
And then I'm still trying to I mean I finished the manuscript on the Nine Saints of Java. This is my
Hmm.
academic book, the second academic book. But I'm still like selecting like who would be the best publisher because I don't want to go with a very conservative academic publishing house because it is an academic book, but it takes different approaches to academia, and I don't want to make major changes to it. So that's why I don't want to give it to a normal classical publishing house because I know they will most likely want major changes, and I'm not prepared to do that
Hmm.
because I have my reasons why I approach the topic the way I approach it. So yeah, and then I have lots of ideas in my head.
So when you have ideas in your head, do you have like a document or do you write the ideas down?
I mean, if it's a poem, I have to write it down right away.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it will fly away.
Yeah.
Um, if it's a story,
Mm-hmm.
like I have it in my head first, and then I do like everything I need to do, like housework, dishes, laundry, everything, and the story will develop in the head.
Yeah.
And I will like think about it, and even if I don't think about it, it develops inside of me. And then
Mm-hmm.
like if I have time, I write it, and usually it's almost done like the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So because
Mashallah.
it's already in my head like the whole
Yes.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, so there are quite a few things I want to do. And other projects we want to do like a book box for mosques
Okay.
in Germany for Muslim children's books.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we want to have the mosque as a reading space
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
so that children do not only go to the mosque to, learn Alif Ba
Mm-hmm.
or like learn the prayer, but
Mm-hmm.
actually there is a third space in the mosque where they can also engage in reading and they actually read or it's being read to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I prepare like a workshop where I want to show people how to use the kamishibai. You know, kamishibai is a Japanese reading theater.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a A3 like this size, like wooden frame where you can put pictures inside, and then you tell the story of the book. You don't just read the book to children, but you tell the story that is written in the book. So it's a interactive way of reading a book. So you can use like other things, not only the pictures, but you can use like things that you can find in the book. Like for example, an apple, and then you cut the apple, and the children can try and taste the apple. Or you have a doll, and the doll is like they can play with the doll. So I prepare this like a workshop for younger people to use this with children. Yeah.
Mashallah. I love that.
So
I never
I
heard that
can write it
concept.
here. It's called Kamishibai. It's a Japanese reading theater.
Mm.
It's really beautiful, and there are many ways, but we haven't. I mean, we Muslims haven't really used it so much. Mm.
Yeah, but I could see how it would be like so engaging, especially with children now, like they're exposed to so much um with electronics and stuff like that. And I've gone to a masjid. I remember one time I went to a masjid and they had like a children's room and my kids wanted to go there and there was a sister taking care of them and when I come back and they're watching SpongeBob and I was just like, I don't understand what just happened. Like, how is there a TV in here, and how is that what they're watching? So to have something like that that's more interactive and more engaging would be really beautiful, and make it also like if it's something in the masjid, make it something else that the kids would want to that they'll
Yeah,
remember it as something, something enjoyable to go to the masjid. Even though in other masjids, like I see like kids running around and they really enjoy it, and they don't let them run around. So to have that as a third space, as Yasmin was saying in the
yeah.
chat, that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, mosques were literally third spaces. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really I mean, the thing is, we can only do so much. That's why we are now like trying to train other people because I mean, I'm being invited to do the kamishibai, the reading theater for children, but my energy is very limited. So and my time is limited. So we need to find ways to actually train other people to use that and we're now trying that, and hopefully, inshallah, it will be successful, so that other people can interact with children like in this way. Yeah.
Inshallah, inshallah. I love everything that you're doing. So, does anybody have any questions? Anything else in the chat? Anything
We
else?
can do a Kamishibai workshop here.
We can, I know. That would be
Yeah.
a really cool interactive workshop. Like doing it, right? Doing it
Yeah.
and teaching people how to do it. Yeah, I think it should be. Yasmin says she's asked mine. Anything else you want to add, Claudia Azizah?
No, I think I mean I'm just happy that I can be a part of the Muslim Writers Salon because I mean although I don't interact at the moment so much because of my family issues, but I'm really like happy that I can exchange, ideas and sometimes post things and people actually react because being a writer, I mean, not many people are writers, and not
Mhm.
many people can give feedback. So I really appreciate that being a member here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate every time you post, and I have saved the one that you wrote, Lady Nafisa, um, and because that's my namesake, so I love reading anything about her.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed that series. Um, so okay, that Tanzine says, "What does your writing practice look like? Do you write every day?" Thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a very coordinated person, but not when it comes to writing. So, so I write whenever I find the time. And sometimes, I mean, things have to get out into the world, and then I just force myself, and everybody else has to stand back, and I have to write it down. Like, for example, I have an idea for an article for the Islamic newspaper. I wrote several articles about like German grammar and the connection to Islamic spirituality or the possible connection. So, and this was just like so long in my head. So I had to really just sit down and then I couldn't take care of the kids. I couldn't cook, but I had to like write this 1 hour. I had to sit down and write. But when I wrote on my academic book, I sit down every day. So usually I start in the morning. I mean, Salat Duha usually, and then I start my writing practice. I mean, and this is you like when I had the postdoc position, I usually wrote like I sat on the laptop 2 to 3 hours in the morning, and then that was it. I mean, 2 or 3 hours writing or trying to write is very exhausting. And then I did other things. So then I had a really good writing practice, but at the moment being in maternity leave, I don't have this kind of writing practice at the moment. But when I write, I mean, I still write. And many times I just write. I have a book, notebook, and I write my ideas down. And the poems, of course, they have to be written down right away. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely like a shift because you have um, not a newborn anymore.
No,
Uh,
it's almost 8 months now, but
oh wow,
still
yeah.
taking most of the time.
Yeah, they do. They do. They do. And you have older kids too.
Yeah,
So yeah, congratulations, says
thank
Yasmin.
you.
And yeah, so there's like a shift. There's a shift. And so I think it's great that you give yourself that if there's a poem, I have to write it because at least it's still flowing and it's not um because it's true, it's just like there's some things that just fly away if you don't catch it.
Yeah.
So have you read the book Big Magic by
No.
Elizabeth Gilbert? She has a section on that. You know this. Yeah, so yeah, it's this whole concept. I should share. I have I photocopied a couple of those pages, and it was that section because I feel like a lot of us know that it's just like if we don't catch it, it's gonna go. So it's
You
really
know
great.
what's the worst?
Hmm.
I just tell you. You know, the moment I want to take a nap, for example, yeah, in the
Hmm.
afternoon, and then the story comes or the poem comes, and you have to make a choice between will I leave my eyes closed and I just, take a rest, or will I get up and take the notebook and scribble it down? And then the nap is finished, no more nap because you're like into the process of writing. So that's a really difficult choice. And I get very upset because sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sleep now, and then it's flown away. It's not there anymore. It will not come back. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that is very frustrating. Yeah, because you need that rest, but then you do have to make that choice. And it's always like, no, I'll remember when I wake up.
you will not. You never
No.
remember.
You always think you will. You even though all the other times you didn't. Tamsin, you said that you wrote a poem about this idea about ideas that can fly away. I would love for you to post it in the
Yeah,
highlights
please.
from our members. I would love to read it. That's so great. Oh, Claudia Aziza, I'm so glad that we got to have this chat. It's nice to
Alhamdulillah.
see you off of the WhatsApp messages.
Yeah.
That's where we normally been chatting. So, and I really enjoy that you're one of our members, and I love all the work you're doing. You're so creative, mashallah, and
Alhamdulillah.
you give so much. So I really, really appreciate you. And inshallah, we will see more of your books out there in the world,
Amin, amin,
especially in
inshallah.
Germany. Um, and inshallah, we'll continue to write
Inshallah.
and have a beautiful rest of your Ramadan.
Yes, you too.
And thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for inviting me. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you soon, inshallah.